Hello and welcome once again to yet another round of International Professional Championship Boxing here on British Eurosport. My name's Steve Holdsworth and we have for you boxing from the Casino de Estoril in Portugal, and it features the TWBA Super Bantamweight contest. Now that, a bit of a mouthful, it's the Trans World Boxing Association, and it's probably the most ludicrous championship ever formed. By people I know, incidentally, which is even more to the pity. But interestingly, the two competitors are probably two of the worst super bantamweights you'd ever find fighting for a title anywhere. But that's that part of it all over. But having said that, when you get two guys of the same kind of standard, of course, against each other, you often get a very good fight. Let's just hope this is the case. Manuel Gomes, of course, the man originally from Angola, now based, of course, in Portugal, against the Hungarian Bela Sandor. And here comes Sandor to the ring. And he's already fought for the Hungarian title, was outpointed by Sandor Kocak over 10 rounds. So here he comes, and this is Manuel Gomes, whose claims to fame, by the way, is a first-round knockout of the reigning European featherweight champion Pedro Miranda in his second professional fight. So there was a time when Gomes wasn't a bad fighter. That was back in 1997, by the way. He's now, I think he's 25 years of age, or maybe about 35 years of age. Yes, 35 years of age. And Sandor is 38 years of age. So not only two of the worst, but two of the oldest to fight for a title. And Sandor's record was 6 wins, 18 defeats, 2 draws, 4 knockouts. Gomes' record is 8 wins, 11 defeats, 1 draw, 7 knockouts. So on paper, Gomes is clearly the better fighter, and he's held this title. This is his actually first defence in his second reign as a TWBA champion. He won it in his fourth pro fight. So there's Gomes, won at his fourth pro fight, lost at his third defence, then fought for it again and drew, and then had another crack and re-won it last year. And here he is making his first defence of the title against Bela Sandor. So Gomes done a pro since '97. Sandor turned pro the same year, incidentally, but 5 months sooner. So good names, by the way, on the record of Sandor. He fought David Guerrero, who'd gone to be the European champion. Salvatore Fanni, another European champion. Zoltan Lunker, ex-German Olympian. Luigi Mancini, little fella from France. And Frankie Leroy. And some reasonable names on the record of Sandor, but never beaten a named opponent. So 38 years of age and 35. And here are the anthems.
E agora vamos passar aos momentos boxe.
Well, the emotion's getting the better of him there. No idea who that is, but obviously a pal of Gomes's. We have potentially 12 rounds in front of us here for this this championship. I'm still at a loss to try and describe it. So there we are then, that is the formalities out of the way, and we have the Trans World International Boxing Association, sorry, the Trans World Boxing Association International Super Bantamweight title. And as I've often said, the smaller the championship, the bigger the name and the bigger the belt. And that's a terrible shame. It's one of the tragedies of boxing these days that that's a pretty dreadful record, isn't it, of the Hungarian. 6 wins, 18 defeats, 2 draws, 4 wins inside the limit. And he is actually 28, not 38, as I said before, although that wouldn't have surprised me in the least. And against the 25-year-old Manuel Gomes, who looks like he's been around forever and could easily pass for 35 or 40. From Kwanza Sul in Angola, originally. Here he is, and once again a pretty appalling record for a title contender. So there you are. The Trans World Boxing Association Super Bantamweight title, and Gomes, obviously the favourite here on paper at least. He's lost 4 of his 11 fights inside the limit. 1 was a disqualification, but that's rather sadder for the Hungarian Sandor. He's lost 7 of his 18 by stoppage, And as I said, there is one bit of form on the record of Gomes, knocking out the reigning European featherweight champion Pedro Miranda in the first round when they met. A couple of other names on the record, of course, outpointed by Istvan Kovacs, one of the finest amateur boxers of all time, but I think Kovacs has now hung up his gloves. Beaten by another European champion a couple of times, Stefano Zoff and Jamel Lifa. So some pretty decent names on the record of Gomes as well. So round one then, and let's just hope that these two men don't put in a performance that is far greater than the title deserves, and that's often the way, isn't it? The smaller it is, the more they seem to want it, and it's always been something of a mystery to me, and also highlights the problems of chucking a silly title at a generally reasonable fight, and it tends to take it down a notch or two, because of course you expect so much more. Anyway, enough of the criticism, let's get on with the action here. And as we can see, Sandor is taller and longer armed, and Gomes is going to have to find a way through that guard. Looks pretty relaxed. And I wouldn't have thought the casino had been taking too many bets on this one. Well, first signs of danger there, and Sandor decides to try and hang on. In fact, nothing really landed, it was just a threat of danger. And Sandor's already set his stall out here, and that's pretty plain, I think, for most of us to see. Super bantamweight limit, by the way, 8 stone 10. And it sits between, of course, bantam and featherweight. I've got no real gripes about the formation of extra weight divisions in boxing, although I've got to say that so many of you prefer the previous 8 divisions. That's all there was, and almost everybody in the world who had an interest in boxing could name you the 8 world champions at the time. But nowadays, you know, there's 300 or 400 men can claim to be a world champion of some sort, and it's pretty galling. Long right from Sandor, and there may not be much between these two at either the beginning or end of the fight. As I say, they're both as bad as each other. Sandor, of course, looks slightly weaker than Gomes. He's a much more solid little fighter, and he has been the distance with decent men, unlike, of course, Sandor, who tends to fold up against them. So there's the end of round one, and really not a great deal to pick between them, was there? Gomes probably nicked it, but by no more than a whisker. Of course, Angola, a former Portuguese colony, which is of course why they've got quite a few. So a bit of replay then from round one, and really not much to pick between these two. Gomes possibly nicked it because he was slightly more positive, although having said that, the Hungarian did finish reasonably well. Of course, it's not down to us, we're just here to observe. It's down to the judges at ringside. They will make their verdict known, of course, at the end. And those of you who don't know, the scorecards are handed in at the end of each completed round, so you can't change your mind halfway through. Here we go then for round two. So Manuel Gomes then in the black and white. The Angolan giving height and reach here to this Hungarian Bela Sandor. Nice big ring, lots of room to skate around, but of course you can run, but as the saying goes, you can't hide. And you've really got to wonder how the brass neck of anybody to suggest that these two should fight for a title of any sort. It really is quite amazing what the professional boxing world has come to. And of course, as we've made the position quite clear before, if you are the holder of a certain type of championship, you will be precluded from fighting from something more established, and I think that's probably the way to go. Although in the short term, it will cause major problems. You'll get fighters who don't deserve a title fight fighting for something that was once the stamping ground of the decent fighters, and of course the quality will drop dramatically in the short term, but it should pick up again when all the dust settles. That's only my personal belief, but of course it may not happen that way. Decent right hand, left hook from Gomes. And when you consider that these two are not even 9 stone in weight, they are fighting with all the speed of a cruiserweight, aren't they? And I do hate to be critical, you know me by now. I don't like to criticise just for the sake of it, but sometimes when you're stuck with no option, rather than say nothing at all, I'd like to think it was being constructive. Not that the powers that be at the TWBA are particularly interested in what I might think of their title. Decent round right there from Sandor. Best punch of the fight so far, in fact. And now Sandor must be doubting his opportunities here. He just landed a peach of a right hand, one of the best right hands, in fact, he's probably thrown in his career, just to see it bounce off the head of Gomes, and now he must be thinking, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I'm not actually going to score this one. I don't think it deserves to be scored. So we'll just watch and enjoy. You make your own minds up. Best punch of the fight so far, of course, has come from Sandor. That was the right hand at the about a minute ago in this round. And Laszlo Pasterko, the Sandor cornerman. So a bit of replay here then. Will it be the right? It was. Caught Gomes quite high, almost on the temple. As I say, I think that was probably the best punch that Sandor's got in him, and it didn't come to much, did it? Bang, good shot. Any thoughts he may have now of winning this championship must have just flown out of the window. Into round 3 then. And to his credit, Sandor is pretty disciplined. He's holding himself the right kind of way. Left hand, a little bit on the low side. Gomes, of course, quite difficult to pierce. He's a rolling little fighter, likes to go rumbling in like that, and he can be quite hard to catch. And of course there has been an awful lot of people agreeing with, I don't think I was the first to suggest it, but the minor titles like this and the Intercontinentals and the Internationals and the whatever else should be reduced to 10 rounds, and I think that makes perfect sense. When you think the Portuguese national title is a 10-rounder, the British Championship, of course, is 12, the German is 10. Maybe it is time that there was some kind of boundary between the real titles and these sorts of championships. Although, that said, got to say that all of the ruling bodies really have shot themselves majorly in the foot. None of them seem to get things right. And don't forget, they're not charities, they're all businesses, the sanctioning bodies. They're all out there to make money. And if they can get you to fight for their title, you'll pay for it, believe me. And of course, the bigger the purse, the more you'll part with. That's how it works. Well, decent attack here from Gomes. Sandor, though, trying to fend him off. And I believe the sanction fee is about 1.5% of the total purse money, and that can be pretty considerable when you consider a world heavyweight title fight of some description. And of course, they also tax the boxers as well. Their purses, they pay, I think, 1.5 to 2% of their purse just to wear the belt. And I've always said, hey, forget the belts, keep the belts, I'll keep my money. If an organisation wants to bestow their belt on you, then that's down to them. Of course, you don't have to accept it, and don't pay them the money. That way they'll soon go out of business, because they don't want to be charities, although some are registered charities to try and exploit tax loopholes. But then again, like any other business. So 3 rounds gone. As I say, you make your own minds up. I'm not going to stoop to judging this one. But it looks like Gomes has probably got Sandor's measure, got to say that. And we've got 10 rounds to go. Sorry, my apologies, 9 rounds to go, potentially, to sort this one out. So replay here then for round 3 of this Transcontinental World Boxing Association Super Bantamweight title fight. And Gomes there on the attack again, probably picked up round 3. 9 to go, of course, decent right that time from Gomes. So here we are then, round 4. Of course, this fight perfectly illustrates the politics behind any ruling body, any sanctioning body. They decide, of course, who they put up for the title. This would have been by no means their first choice. You know, sometimes you're stuck with what you can get. They may well have approached others much higher rated in Europe than these two, but of course the response must have been, why would I want to fight for that when it will preclude me fighting for something more interesting and of course bigger. And that is the problem. Sometimes, you know, you have to go way beyond the reasonable contenders and find people who are just simply prepared to put their names on the line, and that's it. And Gomes and Sandor, of course, fit the bill perfectly. It's by no means, of course, the ideal pairing. You'd want someone, of course, who'd give your title some kind of credence, some kind of respect. But I don't think either of these two measure up to that particular description. Although, give them their due, they are professional fighters. Their job is to earn a few quid, and of course to get themselves up the rankings and earn even more money. And this might just aid that particular cause, but then again, it may not. So Gomes now turning aggressive here in the 4th round, and Sandor, as we've sussed from his record, doesn't like a great deal of attention. Aggressive attention, that is. So he'd much prefer this one to be fought at long range and at a much slower pace. He's sticking close to Gomes here, nullifying his range. And even the most imaginative of people could not make a case for calling this one a transcontinental. I always thought that Hungary and Portugal are on the same continent, Europe, but forgive me if I'm wrong. Well, it's a real tangle now, this one, and neither man wishing really to stand off here and get some work done properly, and Sandor has got to be to blame. So 4 rounds gone, potentially 8 to go. Of course, the major thrill for the punters here, and I suspect you as well, are the ring card girls. Who can blame you? So a bit of replay here then from the 4th, and Sandor really has just about realised he's in a bit of bother here, because Gomes has turned into an aggressive mood, and this is the last thing that Bela Sandor wanted. So round 5 coming up. Of course, the finest fighter in Hungary at the moment will probably be Istvan Kovac, should he continue his career. Beaten, of course, for his WBO title, which is a bit of a shame. But maybe he was riding a bit too high and was brought down to earth, but he was an absolutely fantastic amateur in both 1992 and 1996. Once again, a real tangle going on out there. Well, referee's going to take a point off here. Quite right as well. Bela Sandor there excessively holding on to Gomes for no real reason except the fact that he's scared to death. And don't worry, it's okay for fighters to be scared. Some, of course, react in an entirely different way. Stress can do so many things to so many men and women, of course. Well, was that a clash of heads? I think it possibly was. Is there damage? There is. Both, I think, got a bit of damage. See the blood there? So Gomes then, nasty cut that on the left eye. Just underneath the eyebrow. And that was a clash of heads. I've just won, yes, I think. Yes, he did. Sandor got away with that. Quite fortunate. Yes, under stress, of course, we can all behave in a variety of different ways. Some respond and rise to the occasion, others collapse under it. And big right there from Gomes, good punch. First knockdown of the fight then, and Sandor hits the deck here in round 5. And Gomes, of course, sensing he may be on borrowed time here with that cut, so needs to get things over with if he can. Of course, with very black skin, it's awfully difficult to gauge how bad the cuts are. Oops, that's just a slip there from Gomes, no knockdown. Gomes now looking to bomb him out with every punch he throws. And naturally, of course, Sandor is steeled against it. So not only did Sandor have a point deducted, he's also hit the deck. And the blood once again cascading down the face of Gomes. He can feel that and he can see it. So, very good round there for Gomes, wins it by a couple of points. In fact, he's pretty home and dry now, I would have thought, on points anyway, miles in front. 5 rounds gone, potentially 7 to go. So round 6 then coming up, and well, things looking bad now for Sandor, the Hungarian. He's hit the deck in the 5th round and had a point, of course, deducted in the 4th for excessive holding. And I've yet to see Laszlo Pasterka with that hat on ever second a winner. So good right there again from Gomes. This should be the knockdown. Pushed him across the ring, landed a couple of solid punches. Yep, and an uppercut there. In fact, that was a bit of a hold and hit there, wasn't it, from Gomes? And of course, the bad news for him is he's picked up a bad cut on the left eye. So into round 6. And Gomes, by the way, has been 12 rounds on 3 previous occasions. And so far, Sandor has only ever completed a 10-rounder on 1 occasion. And Gomes now bashing into him. Big rights there. And his instructions are to get rid of Sandor ASAP. Sandor might find himself getting another point deduction fairly soon. Gomes, of course, getting tied up here, making Sandor look even worse, if that's possible. Well, a bit of illegal headwork there, obviously, from Sandor that the referee saw, that I expect most of us missed. What a crab. Once again, Sandor there has gone to pieces. He's psychologically weak as well as physically weak. Doesn't have the strength to keep Gomes away. He's got the height and reach, but of course he just doesn't have the ability. And he really is making this one into an awfully messy brawl now. The referee should be tougher. I'd kick him out. In fact, I'd kick Sandor out, no doubt about that. I'd chuck him out straight away. He would be disqualified if I was the referee. I'm sure I speak for a lot of referees. Of course, this particular referee hasn't done himself any favours, or indeed the fight any favours, because he hasn't been tougher on Sandor, or tough enough on Sandor. And Gomes, well, once again, Gomes as guilty here of sticking too close and putting his arms around Sandor's body. What a mess. Without the flags, a decent punch landed. And I'm just thinking if I've ever seen a worse fight than this. I'm not really sure if I have. I'm struggling. My memory banks are ticking over, but I must have done. Just can't remember when. Oh, big round there for Gomes. Big round for Gomes. Whew. Well, in spurts anyway. But neither of them got too much to be proud of at the moment. Well, we've had 18 minutes of action. If we'd have had 18 minutes of ring card girl, I think I'd feel a whole lot better. So a bit of replay here then. Big left hook there, just catching Sandor on the chest. But the best punch of the fight came just as the bell sounded. Well, the best punch of this particular round anyway. You know, I've seen Raw novices turn in far more polished performances than this. So round 7, this is the halfway stage. Never thought it would get this far. Shouldn't have been allowed to, really. So Manuel Gomes then on the hunt yet again. And Bela Sandor, well, he just needs to try and keep himself protected here. He knows what's coming, though. Oh, switch to southpaw here for Gomes. It's unusual. Oh, good left hand. Oh, and again. Well, that's interesting. And Gomes now piling home the punches here. And Sandor in big trouble for not the first time in the fight either. Oh, goodness me, almost out of the ring there. So lots of pressure, lots of attack from Gomes, and it's all over. Well, thank goodness. So Gomes retains then in this his first defence in his second reign as the daftest title holder on this planet. I'm not even going to mention the name of it again to give it any respectability, I'm afraid. Well, I suppose ultimately it doesn't matter how you get the job done, but then again, I think it does personally. They may think it doesn't matter how they got it done, but I really, really do. Because I care about this game, and I care an awful lot about the way it's gone to the dogs. And the lunatics have taken over the asylum. It's a terrible situation. And this guy obviously knows nothing about boxing. How can he get excited over that? All right, it's his mate, and he won. Good luck to him. Anyone would think he'd won a championship. So here's the finish again. That was the big left hook. And Sandor in all sorts of trouble after that one landed. Couldn't get out of the way. Eventually got thrown underneath the bottom rope across the other side of the ring. Well, I have a regular emailer by the name of Neil Haggath who always points out the worst fight for the worst title on an annual basis, in fact, and I've got a feeling, Neil, you won't have to look too much further than this. And I'm delighted you like to hear it the way it is, because what's the point? I think you'd probably see through me if I tried to tell you this was anything other than what it was. And I would hate to offend you. We're still waiting for the presentation of the belt back to the champion. That's what they were fighting for. Nice belt. Available with 1 gallon of petrol at your local gas station. So then, here we go then for the official verdict, the official announcement.
Resultado deste combate. Ao minuto e 30 do 7º assalto, Manuel Gomes continua campeão da TWBA na categoria de Super Galos.
So there you are, the super bantamweight champion of the TWBA, still in his second defense. Sorry, yes, his second defense. No, first defense of his second reign. And we're absolutely delighted for Manuel Gomes to still be champion. Bad luck there, of course, to Bela Sandor of Hungary, who was found wanting when it mattered. My name's Steve Holdsworth. Do hope you've enjoyed the show. Take care. See you again here on British Eurosport, hopefully very, very shortly. Goodbye.